Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Agent Aschenbrenner's YouTube video podcast. Today we're talking about the Call of Duty Zombies storyline that was started in Call of Duty World at War. Before we get started, I just want to say if you have any suggestions for videos, please leave them in the comments and I might just do that. For example, if you have a certain game you want me to talk about or review, or a certain movie or TV show you want reviewed, stuff like that. Or if you have just an out-of-the-box idea, leave it below, and it just might make its way to the channel. Alright, so now let's talk about the Call of Duty Zombies story that started in Call of Duty World at War. Treyarch Studios now calls this the Ether storyline, but I call it the Black Ops storyline because it goes through the Black Ops video games. Because, the Black Ops series, it goes World at War, then Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4. Alright, so that's the story we're talking about. So, before I start discussing my thoughts on the story, I'm going to give you an overview of the whole thing. This is going to be a really general overview. If you want a more detailed thing, you can read a printout of the storyline. Here's a general overview of the zombie storyline. We started off a long time ago. There were these aliens called the Keepers. Now, the Keepers discovered this energy source called the Ether, and using it, they constructed a machine called the Summoning Key. But there was a splinter group of the Keepers, and this splinter group found the Dark Ether. Like how in DC Comics there's the Speed Force that the Flash uses, and then there's the negative Speed Force that Reverse Flash uses. It's kind of like that. So, this splinter group, which was led by the Shadow Man. Now, remember the Shadow Man because he's going to come into play later. Anyway, he and his splinter group, they used the Dark Ether to build this machine called the MPD. Now, for safekeeping, they stashed this MPD on the moon. Like our moon. The moon of Earth. A war broke out among the Keepers and the splinter group. The first group that built the Summoning Key, they were led by this Keeper named Dr. Monty. And the splinter group was led by the Shadow Man. Dr. Monty's side won, and they locked away the Shadow Man's side in the Dark Ether. Slowly over time, the Shadow Man and his forces mutated into these horrifying squid monster things, and they actually became known as the Apothicons. So, one of the Apothicons' escape plans was to launch meteors filled with this substance called Element 115 to Earth. They figured that the humans on Earth would use Element 115 to wage war on each other, and that would cause a bunch of rifts in space and time, and that would release them from the prison. Now anyway, flash forward a bit, and the Apothicons do break out, and there's a huge war. It's known as the Great War. Not to be confused with World War I, which comes into play later. But anyway, so, the Great War, it was the Apothicons versus the Keepers, the Templar Knights, the Wolf King's forces, and these four mysterious warriors. The Keepers / Templar Knights / Wolf King forces / the four mysterious warriors, they win and they reseal away the Apothicons. Alright, but that's not the end of the story. Now, there was this research group called Group 935, and they found Element 115 and started building stuff with it. Now, Element 115 is a really strong power source, and it can be used for all kinds of stuff. Powering giant robots, building energy weapons, and one interesting side effect, it causes zombies. Now, Group 935 needed some funding, and so they allied themselves with Germany during the Second World War. Group 935 was under the leadership of Dr. Ludwig Maxis. But Ludwig Maxis had a protege, Dr. Edward Richtofen. Now, there's a really kind of confusing sequence of events, and I don't remember the exact order, but Richtofen ends up getting teleported, or Richtofen somehow ends up on the moon, where he touches the MPD, and this causes him to hear a bunch of voices in his head. One of the voices is the Shadow Man. Now, Richtofen then somehow ends up traveling back to Earth, but then back in time, in this place in the Himalayan mountains. And this is how he learns of this item called the Focusing Stone. I know this sounds really I'm not explaining this too well, and I'm just kind of all over the place, but this story is kind of like that. It's non-linear. It happens in a strange way. Like, all the stuff about the Apothicons, we didn't really learn any of that until Black Ops 3, but it happens chronologically before World at War. So, I'm just going to keep on going. So, Richtofen, he is dead set on accomplishing what he calls his grand scheme. Now, to do this, he decides to take over Group 935. Now, there's another reason he took over Group 935. Dr. Maxis decided to withhold the production of the energy weapon that he built with 115. It was called the Wunderwaffe DG2. Yeah, the Wunderwaffe DG2. And Richtofen wanted that to be mass-produced for the German army, which, of course, that's bad. But Ludwig stopped him from doing that. So that's one reason Richtofen had beef with Ludwig. Richtofen was also experimenting with teleportation technology. Now, he first successfully teleported a walnut, but then he tested the teleporter on the dog belonging to Dr. Maxis' daughter, Samantha Maxis. Now, he teleported the dog away. Wherever the dog got teleported to, I think it was probably the Dark Ether, the dog mutated into this horrifying monster thing, and the dog, which was named Fluffy, she was pregnant, and she had puppies, and those puppies were also horrifying monster dogs. And when you're playing zombies, you're going to fight a lot of these monster dogs. Back to Group 935. Richtofen, because he's upset about the DG2 and because of his grand scheme, he tries to take over Group 935. Richtofen puts Dr. Ludwig Maxis and his daughter Samantha into the unstable teleporter. Richtofen thought that would kill them, but it actually worked that time, and it sent them to the moon. Oh, sorry, I should mention, Group 935 built a ton of research stations. Like, they had one in an old German theater, they had one in a German asylum, they built one in the castle that used to belong to the Wolf King, they built one on the moon, and again, that's also in the part of the moon where the MPD is located. So they have tons of research facilities. I'm trying to think if there's any I'm forgetting. I'm sure there are. Their headquarters was this factory in Germany, and it was called the Giant, or in German, Der Lies. So Ludwig and Samantha end up on the moon. Samantha ended up in the MPD chamber of the base on the moon. There wasn't any air in the base at that point, so she ran into the MPD. The MPD is a pretty big machine, and it opened up and she went into it, and it actually did enable her to survive. But the interesting thing is, when Samantha went into the MPD, she actually gained control of this energy source, the ether. Sorry, again, I know I'm saying this a lot out of order and I keep going back on myself, but I forgot to mention, Group 935 was working on producing a zombie army for Germany to use during the Second World War. So there's zombies around, and Group 935 has a bunch of these zombies, and they're going to try to weaponize them. So when Samantha went into the MPD, she actually gained control of the zombies. She became what is known as the announcer. She's called that because when you're actually playing zombies, whenever you grab a power-up or something, you'll actually hear her say it, and, So she's the announcer. But then, Group 935 actually killed Dr. Maxis, her dad, in front of her. And that's why Samantha wanted revenge on all of Group 935. So she sends the zombies to attack every Group 935 facility. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's also another facility in Siberia, which we will get back to later. Alright, so Samantha wants revenge. Dr. Ludwig Maxis is killed. And Richtofen assumes control of Group 935. Now, Richtofen was also doing some experiments on people, because he's an evil, nutty scientist. Yeah, Richtofen's nuts, by the way. Now let's get on to the actual maps. The first zombie map, Nacht, it takes place in this old, abandoned German bunker, I think. Yeah, it's in Germany, so it's in Europe during World War II. I'm not sure the exact location. Alright, so in Nacht, a plane drops out of the sky and crashes into a Group 935 transport truck. Inside the transport truck were zombies. The map has you playing as 4 unnamed Marines, and they have to survive against the zombies. These 4 unnamed Marines are eventually killed. They hold out as long as they can, but they are eventually killed. The second map ever made takes place in the abandoned German asylum, which was converted into a research facility. This is where America gets involved. So, the Americans sent a spy named Peter McCain to infiltrate Group 935 and get some intel on it. Now, they wanted to pull McCain out, so they sent in a team to extract him from the asylum. This team consisted of Tank Dempsey, John Banana, a guy named Smokey, and the fourth one didn't have a name, if I remember correctly. So they go in, they try to rescue McCain, but McCain's not there. Also, zombies are attacking the asylum because Samantha sent them there. So, these soldiers, these American soldiers, they fight off the zombies for as long as they can, but eventually 3 of them are killed. The only survivor is Tank Dempsey, and he is captured. Tank Dempsey is taken to the Siberian facility, where Richtofen does experiments on him, a guy named Pablo Marinis as well, and 2 other POWs, a Japanese soldier named Takeo Masaki, and a Russian soldier named Nikolai Belinsky. Richtofen does a bunch of twisted experiments on them. They all end up losing their memory, and they have a few other bad things happen to them. They go through a rough time. Richtofen takes the 3 surviving test subjects, which are Tank Dempsey, Takeo Masaki, and Nikolai Belinsky. Richtofen takes them to Group 935's headquarters, which is Deris, there. So they try to survive for a while. They end up using the teleporter to escape. But the teleporter accidentally sends them into the future. And so, all the stuff I've been talking about, that was during World War II, so 1940s. But now they're getting sent ahead to the Cold War era. The group, known as Ultimus, arrives at an abandoned German theater that was converted into a Group 935 research facility. Here, they simply survive against zombies for as long as they can. They utilize the Russian-built Thunder Gun, which is a very powerful weapon and my personal favorite wonder weapon. Alright, so they survive for a long time there, and then they use a lunar lander to escape, and they actually travel to a Russian facility, which was operated by a group called the Ascension Group. Now, the Ascension Group, they're basically the Russian equivalent of Group 935. So, Group 935, they're an organization that experiments with Element 115, advanced technology, the zombies. So, but Germany wasn't the only country that had this kind of organization. Russia had the Ascension Group, Japan had Division 9, America actually would later have a organization called Broken Arrow that would do much of the same stuff. All right, here's a little background actually. So after the end of the Second World War, various Group 935 scientists were actually given political sanctuary in America and Russia. The Group 935 scientists who went to America worked for the U.S. government, the Broken Arrow program, and the ones that went to Russia worked for the Ascension Group, basically. So, they arrive at the Ascension Group's facility, which is at this Russian cosmodrome where there's a rocket launch pad and everything. Zombies are attacking there. So, the group has to survive against the zombies, and this is the first time we saw... In this map is the first time we saw a main quest, a major quest for the characters. The quest in this one, there was a Russian... Sorry, I said this is going to be a general overview, but I'm getting a little detailed here. So I'll try to make it more general, but okay, so for the Ascension Group, the 2 most prominent scientists were Dr. Gersh, who was the leader, and then another scientist named Yuri. Samantha, who is still on the moon, but she can actually communicate with people in their heads. The Ascension Group is the people who actually built the Thunder Gun, and there's also a Thunder Gun in this map, which comes into play in a bit. But the big thing they were working on is called the Gersh device. It's a machine that basically makes this little portal, and it just sucks everything in. Now, Samantha convinces Yuri to activate the portal, and it sucks Dr. Gersh into the Gersh device portal. Dr. Gersh, who's turned into this energy form, he gets stuck inside this machine called the Casimir mechanism. Now, Ultimus's goal is to release him from the Casimir mechanism. And they have to do a bunch of steps, and there's, they go through this quest to do it. I've never actually done this quest because it's 4-player only, and it's hard to get 4 people to do it. But anyway, so Richtofen and the group, Ultimus helps Gersh get released. Oh, fun fact. The events of this map take place at the same time as the events of another map in the original Black Ops game. It's called 5. And we're going to get to that. I'm going to talk about that next. But anyway, Samantha actually sent Yuri from this Russian facility to the American United States Department of Defense headquarters. And that's what's going to come into play next. So, while the Ultimus crew did free Dr. Gersh, the actual motive for Richtofen going there is he wanted to acquire the Gersh device, because it would be used in his grand scheme. In America, at the same time, there is a meeting going on between President John F. Kennedy, United States Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, Richard Nixon, and Fidel Castro. During this meeting, zombies attack them, and this meeting is taking place in the United States Department of Defense headquarters. This meeting is getting attacked. The 4 people at the meeting band together, and they fight off all the zombies. There's not really a quest in this one, but they are utilizing an American-built wonder weapon called the Winter's Howl. Like, history continues as normal, basically. Next for the Ultimus crew, Dr. Gersh, who now has, superpowers because he was turned into this energy form, he teleports them to the Group 935 facility in Siberia, where a movie is in production, like a zombie movie. And the reason this movie is taking place there is because there were some Group 935 documents that were discovered, and they knew about the experiments and stuff, and they were making a movie kind of based on that. So the Ultimus characters get teleported there, but they're actually locked in this really small room with the teleporter, and they can't get out. The motive for Richtofen going there is he needs to acquire this thing called the Golden Rod. It's a device, and he actually has the actors of the movie help him get it. Also, the movie set is getting attacked by zombies. So these action movie actors, which by the way are Danny Trejo, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, and Michael Rooker, they actually fight off the zombies and they complete this quest for Richtofen, and they get him the Golden Rod. They then also help him repair the teleporter. There's a really funny joke in this map, when you're at the end of the quest, and they try using the teleporter after they get the Golden Rod, and it doesn't work, and Dempsey makes a joke. He's like, should I get out and push? Like it's a car breaking down. But anyway, then they fix the teleporter, and they get teleported to the same mountain range that Richtofen found himself earlier. While they're there, they encounter these, Indiana Jones type characters who are investigating and, trying to find treasure or whatever. So, the Ultimus crew goes through this long quest to acquire this object called the Focusing Stone, which, of course, that's Richtofen's motive for going there. After they help these explorers escape, and the explorers help them get the Focusing Stone, the explorers' names are Brock and Gary, by the way. They're kind of fan-favorite characters, I think. So, I've never done this quest either. It's 4-player only. These 4-player quests. Alright, so, once they get the Focusing Stone, Richtofen is ready to complete his grand scheme. And where he needs to go to complete his grand scheme is go to the moon. But, as they're about to teleport to the moon from the mountain range, Tank Dempsey uses the wonder weapon from that map. It's called the, there's a really long name for it, but the nickname is the baby gun. It's a shrink ray, basically. And the pack-punch name is the fractalizer. But I don't remember the actual, unpacked name. It's the JGB 3215 or something. Tank Dempsey uses that while they're teleporting, and it screws up the teleporter. And they actually get teleported back in time a little bit, and they arrive at the United States Department of Defense headquarters. Now, while they're there, zombies are attacking, of course. I'm going to say that a lot. Zombies are always attacking these guys. So, while they're there, basically they just have to survive against the zombies. They do a little quest that unlocks a suitcase that has the Winter's Howl in it. You can also get it out of the mystery box. Oh, by the way, the element 115 causes these portals to open, and these boxes fall out of the portals. These boxes, whenever they are activated, they produce weapons from various time periods. So, it's called the mystery box. Also, there's these mysterious chalk drawings on the wall where if you go up to it, you can get a gun off the wall. So, that's just an interesting part of the story. After they survive at the Department of Defense headquarters, they actually teleport to Area 51. And they survive there for a brief amount of time. Or if you're playing the map Classified on Black Ops 4, you can survive there as long as you want. But anyway, they go to Area 51, and from there, they teleport to the moon. They arrive at the Group 935 facility on the moon, Richtofen knows he's got everything he needs for his grand scheme, and he goes about it. They go on this quest to complete Richtofen's grand scheme. And remember, Tank, Nikolai, and Takio, they don't know what the scheme is. But Richtofen reveals that the scheme is actually for him to take away control of the zombies from Samantha. He succeeds in this quest, but then the remaining Ultimus crew and Samantha team up to stop him. And they do that by launching these 3 huge missiles at the Earth. It blows up the Earth, like shatters it, and this actually disrupts Richtofen's connection to the ether, which weakens his abilities that he has from the MPD. Alright, so that's the conclusion of Black Ops 1. So now we go into the Victus story. By the way, when they teleported to the moon, they actually time traveled into the future to the year 2025. So that's where we're at right now. We're going to go back down to Earth and in the year 2025. So the Earth has been blown up, but there's actually still like oxygen and gravity and stuff. So there's still humans surviving there. But basically at this point, the whole planet is just like overrun by zombies. Most of the stuff is like in ruins. So, it's like your standard zombie movie at this point. If you want to know what happened to the Ultimus crew, they eventually teleported themselves back in time. They went back to the U.S. Department of Defense headquarters. Or maybe they arrived at Area 51. Either way, no, it was Area 51. But then they got captured by U.S. forces because, they didn't know what was going on. And then they don't come back into the story for a while. Except for Ultimus Richtofen right now. He is the announcer. And, he's actually trying to complete another scheme. Now, a new crew forms. At a Broken Arrow facility in a place called Camp Edward, which is also known as Nuketown, there is a zombie outbreak there because they were drilling for Element 115 there. And a nuclear bomb went off next to it. So there's this Broken Arrow facility. Like, again, I said, Broken Arrow is a U.S. research facility or organization that experiments with the undead, Element 115, and so on. So, the Broken Arrow facility, a nuke is detonated there, and there's a ton of zombies because there was Element 115. That's why they were there. They were drilling for it. The Camp Edward facility, which is also known as Nuketown, it is run by an artificial intelligence program called Rushmore. But that doesn't come into play too much. So, these CDC hazmat crew and the CIA agents, they go in to investigate, and they have to fight up against a ton of zombies. They do a decent job of fighting against the zombies, and they survive. But then the missiles that the Ultimus crew launched actually come in, and they hit Nuketown, and it's one of the first places to go. So a little after that, a new crew forms. There is Marlton Johnson, who's this kind of nerdy engineer guy, or he's like the smart guy of the group. He was also trying to expose the research of Broken Arrow before all this happened, but I guess the zombies taking over the world and the earth shattering kind of put that plan on the back burner. So he teams up with this girl named Abigail Briarton. She is the daughter of a Marine, presumably, because she has a quote where she says, "This one's for you, Dad, oorah," which is like a Marine thing. So she's the daughter of a Marine. So she's really badass. She's kind of like a country farm girl. She teams up with Marlton. Then they also team up with this guy named Russman, he has his memory fully wiped. He's a former employee of Broken Arrow. And then they also team up with this guy named Stuhlinger. Now Stuhlinger, through a pretty gross series of events, he actually has the ability to hear Richtofen talking to him. So the 4 of them meet up in Washington State in this basically town area. There's this town, there's a farm nearby, there's a bus stop, there's a power station, and the power station is actually secretly a Broken Arrow facility. By the way, it is really secret. The door to this facility is in an outhouse, so all that spy stuff going on there. In this facility, there's this electric monster called the Avogadro. There's actually a story behind the Avogadro, but we're actually going to talk about that guy more later. But anyway, so this map is one of 3 maps that has 2 branching quests. One quest you can either work for Richtofen or against him. The working against Richtofen is the official one. Of course, it's player choice when you're playing, but story-wise, they work against Richtofen. They go through this quest, they release the Avogadro, which now there's this electric monster shooting lightning and stuff with them. So they go through this quest, they complete a bunch of steps, they end up having to kill the Avogadro underneath this tower. It's called the pylon. And they do that, and that pylon activates, and it takes a little bit of the control away from Richtofen. So they power up this pylon against Richtofen, and then Richtofen, still thinking he can get them to work for him, Richtofen teleports them to China. They end up in this like collapsed skyscraper, which is like, there's like these two buildings. One of them's like upside down, and the other one is just like in ruins, and there's zombies everywhere. So they have to complete another quest, because on the top of this building is another pylon. So they go through this quest, they activate this pylon against Richtofen, but Richtofen still thinks that he can persuade them. So he teleports them to Africa. Now, when these missiles hit, there was a bunch of like time and space stuff going on, like portals opening. So the building from the first zombies map knocked, that building actually gets teleported to Washington State, and in the transit map you actually can enter it, and you actually have to do the quest, because I think there's a piece of the wonder weapon there that you need, because you need the wonder weapon. So, another place that got teleported, an Old West town, got teleported underground into a mine in Africa. Now, above ground, at this mine, there's a third pylon. And so the characters get teleported there, they go down into the mine, and by the way, this map has a really cool starting area. There's like the big mining machine out there, and you can see the pylon, I think. So anyway, they go down into the mine, and of course, now down there, there's an Old West town with a bunch of Old West people who got turned into zombies. So this map, it's called Buried. The characters go through this difficult quest to power up this pylon. There's also this really cool machine called the Time Bomb, which you toss down this device, then you have this little stopwatch, and you can use it to go back in time, which actually is gameplay stuff, because it'll actually go back to the round you set it down on. So like if you get it on round 4 and you set it down, and then you go to like round 20 and you click the stopwatch, you'll actually get sent back to round 4, which is actually really cool. You have to use it for the quest as well. Oh, also, when this map came out, it introduced the Ray Gun Mark II, which is an upgraded version of the ray gun. They do all this Old West stuff, and they complete it. They work against Richtofen, and this dethrones Richtofen. And so Richtofen is powerless now, and after a series of events, this actually results in, there's a lot of stuff that happens. Richtofen actually gets stuck in a zombie body, and then he goes to his actual body at the United States Department of Defense headquarters. He travels back in time to do this, so it's before the Earth got blown up. So, and he gets back in his own body. But anyway, that comes into play later. But in the process of doing this, through a series of events, the Earth basically gets wiped out. Like, all the stuff that was remaining after it got blown up, gone. But Samantha uses her abilities to travel to an alternate universe. And in this alternate universe, she goes to a Group 935 facility and finds the alternate version of her father, Dr. Ludwig Maxis. This version of Maxis never had kids, so of course he was surprised when his daughter shows up. And she doesn't actually show up, she's just talking to them in their heads. Samantha wants his help in order to open a portal to this place where Dr. Monty lives. Ludwig gets bitten by a zombie. There's a whole series of events. He basically gets turned into a drone. But so Samantha needs the help of somebody else to do it. But then the facility gets attacked by zombies because, I forgot to mention, the time period when they're at this facility is World War I. This alternate universe version of Group 935, it's not run by Richtofen or Maxis. It's run by some other executives or government people or whatever. Maxis and Richtofen, they're both just employees there. I'm sure they're high-ranking scientists, but they're just there. So they were at this dig site where they discovered the mystery box. They discovered a ton of element 115. They also dug up a chamber where a bunch of Templar Knights, who unfortunately got infected with the zombie virus, show up. And then the zombie infection spreads. All the German World War I soldiers get infected, and the place is overrun with zombies. So Richtofen is here at this place where all the zombies are. But America sent a younger version of Tank Dempsey. Of course, so this is in World War I, so all the characters are younger than their counterparts. So Corporal Tank Dempsey gets sent in to see what's up with Group 935. Oh, by the way, at this facility, Richtofen also built these huge robots. These really, really big robots. So those are running around the map as well, and they're involved in the quest. So Tank Dempsey goes there. By the way, Tank is his nickname, but he actually goes into the facility driving a tank. And also sent there is Takeo Masaki, on orders from the Japanese Emperor. And also there is Nikolai Belinsky, who gets sent there, as an agent of Russia. They all go there. They have this really epic intro cutscene where they're fighting the zombies. Then they all show up, and this World War I, so they all point their guns at each other because they're on opposite sides. But then they all see Richtofen, which, by the way, this is a different version of Richtofen. He's younger, he's much more sane than the other version. And they all see Richtofen, and since they just all point their guns at him because he has a bunch of blood in his hands. He'd just done the procedure that turned Maxis into a drone. Then they realize there's zombies everywhere, we better team up. So they go through this whole quest, they build these 4 wonder weapon staffs, and they complete this quest and open this portal for Samantha. So they go into this portal. Dr. Monty is there, but only Richtofen knows about Dr. Monty. So Tank... Oh, by the way, these younger versions of the characters, they're known as Primus. So Tank, Takeo, and Nikolai get sent to... So they get sent back in time in the original universe to Group 935's headquarters at Duris, which is German for the Giant. They get sent there, and they're trying to stop Richtofen because they learn that Richtofen's trying to change the timeline. Richtofen, on the other hand, he goes on this super long, super just in-depth quest throughout time and space. He's traveling the multiverse. He's going through different timelines. He gets this book which has a bunch of information about the timelines and universes and stuff. That's where he comes up with his grand scheme, much different than the original grand scheme. So Richtofen gets involved in the events of this city called Morgue City. Now Morgue City is actually getting attacked by the Shadow Man. The Shadow Man unleashes a ton of zombies. Oh yeah, that's right, I told you Shadow Man is going to come back and Dr. Monty too. Alright, so Shadow Man somehow got out of the Dark Ether, or in some capacity he's able to interact with Earth. So he tricks these 4 characters into releasing the Apothicons, which they do. And so these giant squid monsters are everywhere. Some of the Apothicons were already out anyway, like Shadow Man and some of the others, because they were attacking the city along with the zombies. There's actually a lot of backstory about this map. The map is called Shadows of Evil, and it has a bunch of stuff like this reporter guy who was involved. There was this truck that had the summoning key on it. The summoning key that the Keepers built. It's now back in the story. These characters are tricked into releasing the Apothicons, but then they also go on another quest to take down one of the Apothicons. Oh, by the way, this Morgue City quest, this takes place in the younger character's home universe. I know. Is it confusing enough yet? So, at the end of that, the Keepers are there, and they're holding the summoning key. But then Primus Richtofen shows up. He takes the summoning key. He says this quote, and he jumps through a portal. Then Richtofen now has the summoning key. So Richtofen does some stuff with an alternate version of himself. Then he goes back to the Ultimus universe at Duris, and to start off this quest, he kills Ultimus Richtofen before he can do most of his stuff that he does. Of course, Richtofen still teleports Samantha and Maxis to the moon, so the zombies are still attacking and stuff. So the Primus crew, which is what the younger characters are, young Richtofen, young Dempsey, young Takeo, young Nikolai, they survive against the zombies. They do this little quest, and then they leave. The Primus crew then goes to the Group 935 facility at the Wolf King's castle, the castle that used to be occupied by the Wolf King. There they go on this really fun quest where they're time traveling around. They're building these bow and arrow weapons. They're wonder weapons. They're fighting these Panzer Soldats, that's German for tank soldier, which are these zombies in these really big armored suits. Oh, it's nuts. Then they do this boss fight against this really big corrupted keeper. But anyway, then they end up killing the original version of Dempsey. And then after they do that, they survive for a bit, and they go to Japan. They go to this island in Japan. This island has a big Division 9 research facility, and it's also where the original version of Takio is located. So they're on this boat, they get captured by these like Japanese soldiers. They have this little sequence where they do a bunch of fighting, and Takio's using his katana. It's pretty cool. So they get to this island. There's like a bunch of mutated plants. There's these monster spiders. There's this really, really big monster spider. There's these big plant monsters called thrashers. So they go through a quest to repair this elevator, which will let them go down to like this basement floor of the facility. Now let me explain a little bit about the thrashers. The thrashers are these big plant monsters, but if a player goes down, the player will actually get sucked into the plant monster and they'll be like in its stomach or whatever. Now, there is a mega thrasher, like a really big one, and Takio Masaki, the original version, is stuck inside him. The characters do a boss fight against this mega thrasher, they get Takio out, and they kill the original Takio. Now, the reasons for why they're killing this, there's like, it's kind of confusing. Let me explain. I don't fully understand a lot of this story. There's a bunch of info I don't even have with like, there's like radios you can listen to and like ciphers you can, there's like ciphers that people have decrypted in this mode. So I don't have all the facts. This is just like how I see the story. Then, of course, they've killed 3 out of the 4 original crew, so they might as well go to the last Ultimus crew member, which is original Nikolai. So they go to Russia. Now, Russia is being attacked by dragons. And the Russians are using, so the Russians reverse engineered those giant German robots, and they built their own. They were using those robots to fight off the dragons. And there's like a huge big war, the city's in ruins. And then, this is all like during World War II, by the way. So like there's dragons and stuff. Ultimus Nikolai is in this big mech suit, and he's like fighting the dragons and the zombies. Of course there's zombies here too, in addition to the dragons. So the characters show up there, they go on this quest, they complete a bunch of challenges, and then they enter a boss fight with one of these dragons. And the Ultimus version of Nikolai in his mech suit helps them fight the dragon. But then when they reveal why they're there, Nikolai gets mad and you have to fight Nikolai in his mech suit. After they defeat Nikolai's mech suit, they kill Ultimus Nikolai. This is like his grand scheme being completed. They get teleported to Dr. Monty's house. And while they're there, so I forgot to mention that the characters from Morgue City captured the Shadow Man in the summoning key, but the Primus characters, like Richtofen, he didn't know about that. So the Shadow Man does some trickery, and he tricks the characters into releasing him from the summoning key, and then he releases the Apothicons, and the Apothicons are attacking Monty's house. So the Primus characters get called into action once again. They do a big long quest, and they're fighting Apothicons, they're fighting Panzer Soldaths, they're fighting the spider monsters from the Japanese island. They go through this big quest, they have a final showdown with the Shadow Man, and they kill the Shadow Man. But then, Dr. Monty sends the characters, like the Primus crew, back in time to the Great War, and it turns out the Primus crew are the 4 mysterious warriors that helped the Templar Knights, the Wolf King, and the Keepers fight the Apothicons. Alright, so I've gone through 2 of the timelines now. The Ultimus timeline and then the second timeline from when the Primus characters go back in time. So then, there's also a third timeline. There's a change right after the Japanese island quest with the Primus crew. Alright, so the Primus crew gets some advice from a future version of Richtofen from like after the Great War. And he tells them that they are actually going to go stop Dr. Monty. And so now Dr. Monty is the villain. And then the Great War version of Richtofen actually promotes Primus Nikolai to the leader of the crew. So Great War Richtofen promotes Primus Nikolai to the leader of the Primus crew. And Nikolai, he reads the Crematorium and he comes up with his own grand scheme, Nikolai's grand scheme. And so, they now go on a quest to stop Dr. Monty. The first thing Primus Nikolai does, they go back in time to Area 51, they get the Ultimus crew, like Ultimus Tank Dempsey, Ultimus Richtofen, Ultimus Nikolai, Ultimus Takio, and then they team up to go on this quest. They then go back to the Nuketown facility, Camp Edward, the Broken Arrow facility. So the two crews are looking for the elemental shard, and it's locked inside the APD, which is an American replica of the MPD. Now, they go through this quest to acquire it, but then when they open the APD, they release the Avogadro, who turns out to actually be the director of Broken Arrow, Cornelius Purnell. He was turned into the Avogadro. So they do a boss fight against the Avogadro, they lock him back in the APD, they hit a button, and it actually transfers Avogadro from the Nuketown facility to the facility in Washington State. The one where the Victus crew was. They get the elemental shard and they're on their way. They then contact the Victus crew, which, by the way, Ultimus Richtofen turns himself into a zombie in order to communicate with Stuhlinger, so that's an interesting part of that. Nikolai has the Victus crew build this machine for him, so they go on a quest and they do all this stuff. Oh, by the way, the place where they're building it, the Victus crew goes to the Siberian facility, which, was where the actors were doing the quest to find the Golden Rod. So, the Victus crew does that, they go on this quest, and they build the machine. They successfully get it. They also run into Pablo Marinas, who was one of the original test subjects at the Siberian facility. Pablo Marinas was also a warrior in the Great War because of some time travel stuff. Also, another warrior in the Great War was Arthur, and Arthur actually got transported to the Old West town, buried. So that's just a little side note. So anyway, they complete the quest, they send the machine to Nikolai. Nikolai uses the machine, the elemental shard, and the summoning key, and he purges the multiverse of 115. That means everything that was infected with 115 got sent away. But when I say sent away, it gets sucked into the dark ether. This includes all the zombies, all the Apothecons, the Shadow Man, Dr. Monty, which, by the way, they also reveal that Dr. Monty was corrupted by the dark ether the same way the Shadow Man was. And then what else gets sucked in? A bunch of the, geographic locations that had element 115, including the Siberian facility and stuff like that. And then, all this gets sucked into the dark ether. And then Nikolai actually has members of both the Primus crew and the Ultimus crew killed. And I don't really understand the full reason for that, but I think it's something to do with, they had the 115 in them, and if they survived, it was risking the timeline in the multiverse or something. I don't know, it's kind of confusing, but Nikolai himself gets shot by Samantha, which Samantha, of course, she was the announcer, but she was actually doing this thing during the final map where she was, purging herself of the ether energy, and presumably that got, all the 115 out of her system. And she along with this other character, Eddie, they're the only ones that survive this purge. And they go through, I'm pretty sure it's a portal, and while they're walking through this portal, you get some really emotional quotes from all the characters, like the Ultimus and Primus crew. By the way, this story has so many, well-developed characters. It's really a character-driven story. But anyway, that was the conclusion of the whole storyline. So now that I've given you that really long... what I said was going to be a general overview, but it was really long. Now that I've given you that, I can give you my thoughts on the story. I really enjoyed this story. So when I first started playing zombies, it was the Black Ops 1 version of Kino. And I didn't think it had a story. I literally thought zombies was a mode where they just took the guns from the campaign and they let you fight zombies with it. And I thought that was awesome. I thought that's all it needed to be. And of course, it always intrigued me that the loading screen of Kino would actually have some hints at a story, which, by the way, so back then, I actually completely misheard what Richtofen said during that intro. So I was under a different impression than what was supposed to be. I also thought the concept of this spooky girl being in control of the zombies was interesting. Which, of course, now I know that's Samantha Maxis. But yeah, so back then I didn't really think it had a story. I mean, of course, Kino had those hints at a story. But now that I know there's actually this really big, complex story, it's just really cool. And of course, the way you learn this story, of course, a lot of it's in cutscenes and stuff, but there's audio reels, there's radios, there's environmental storytelling, but a lot of it is you actually hear it in game. When the characters are in the game, they'll just talk about stuff and you'll learn new stuff. So it's really interesting. I remember I was playing with some people on Xbox Live, like we were just playing some co-op, and I was telling my friend, like, just telling her the story of the Black Ops Zombie story. And that's actually why I'm making this video, because, like, she really enjoyed hearing about the story. So I thought I might as well do this. And also, the final map with the Victus crew building the machine, that's my favorite map. So anyway, I was playing with some friends. We were actually doing some, like, achievement hunting, and we were doing the quest on the final map. So we were doing the quest, and my friend, who had never seen the cutscene before, was experiencing, and he just was, like, blown away, and he told us that he didn't really know, like, the full story, but now he really wanted to. So I guess he can check out this video if he wants a really poorly told, like, mess of a story explanation that's really broad, and I didn't cover everything, so, but if he wants to watch this, go ahead. It's also going to be a really long video because that took a long time to describe. But anyway, we were playing that, and I thought, like, yeah, just the conclusion cutscene was so cool. But there's so much more to this story, so, like, I thought I'd just make a video talking about the story. And it really can, like, suck you in, because these characters are really well developed. And like I said, it is a character-driven story. Also, of course, I enjoy the story because it's horror and sci-fi, which, like, are two of my favorite genres. By the way, just a side note, I think Call of Duty is at its best when it has horror and sci-fi elements in it. That's why I love the advanced movement games like Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3, and the base game, Infinite Warfare. That's why I really liked it when the Blackout map in Black Ops 4 got updated with, like, the spooky theme, you know, where it had, like, all the fog and stuff. And I just really like stuff like that. And, like, that's why the Zombies mode is so cool, because it's really sci-fi, it's horror-themed. Also, the mode is just tons of fun to play. So yeah, I enjoyed the zombie storyline, and I'll take any excuse to talk about it, because I just really enjoy talking about it. I'll take any excuse to talk about any video game. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this story, and I just enjoy talking about it. Also, side note, that same night after we did the quest on the final map, we also loaded up another game. So my two friends, they already had the secret achievement. It's an achievement literally labeled secret. And it's for getting to the secret area in the final map. So they were nice enough to help me get it. And by the way, this secret achievement is so weird. Like, they had watched, like, a bunch of guides, and I'd seen, like, guides of how to do it as well. You have to use, like, this flinger, and you have to, like, get flung to this... You get flung to, like, this puddle, and you go underwater, and you swim through this underwater tunnel. And then you start, like, freezing and, like, suffocating halfway through. So I used an elixir to, like, there's an elixir. And by the way, elixirs are just like these consumable items. I used one that let me regenerate my health while moving so I could stay alive. There's also a strategy where you can use your specialist partway through to survive. We were doing that, and we were, like, trying to get it, and we couldn't get it. So then we were going to try again. And so I was standing, what I thought I was standing next to the flinger. By the way, the flinger is literally just like a grate on the floor that springs up and launches you. But so I was standing, what I thought was standing next to it, and I was talking with my friend, like, okay, maybe we can try this to get it to work. I didn't even think I was standing on it, but all of a sudden, it launched me. Again, my foot was probably barely touching it. I should probably go into theater mode sometime, if I still have the game. Because I don't remember if I didn't bookmark the footage. But anyway, so my foot is probably barely touching this platform. I didn't even think I was on it. And it just launches me into the thing, and I was losing my mind. I was like, yes, I'm going to get the secret achievement. And I'm just swimming through, and I get to the end, and it's literally just this, like, little area. There's, like, this really cool skybox with, like, this other planet. A lot of people are speculating that it's Mars or something. And also, I was just, like, looking around and, like, looking at, like, all the textures and the graphics and stuff. I was just, like, losing my mind. There's also, like, this little boat where you can hold X and it'll take you back to the main map. But I was just goofing around. I even jumped, like, back in the water and, like, swam around for a bit, just looking at the graphics and stuff. But no, I didn't even use the boat. I think I just stayed there too long, or maybe the game just didn't like me swimming around, and I just got teleported back to the main map. But it's like World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, and the Ether story mode in Black Ops 4. It's all one continuous story. But yeah, the conclusion is in Black Ops 4. So yeah. I know my review is a little basic. I'm literally just saying, yeah, it's a cool story, it's character driven, it's interesting. It's sci-fi. It's horror. But I just had a lot of fun like exploring this story. Like I said, I didn't even know about this story when I was like playing Kino, but now I have like a decent grasp on the story. But you know, I don't know. So I was just talking with friends about it, and I thought I'd make a video about it. So yeah, thanks for checking out this episode of Agent Aschenbrenner's YouTube video podcast.